Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the Professor, and this is the Moment of Truth. A few people have already brought this up to me, so I'm going to speak on it. The Florida GOP, led by arch-white supremacist Ron DeSantis, are going on a gerrymandering spree. Now, the reason that I hadn't spoken on this before now is because this isn't news. We've already been hearing that Florida basically is a all but red state at this point, that the state's percentage of Republicans is higher than it's ever been, etc., etc. And between the racist white supremacist and the racist white supremacist adjacents from Cuba, this is already something that's baked into the cake. It shouldn't be a surprise to anybody that they would close ranks against black people because that's what's always happened. DeSantis' voter district map is exactly what it seems, a racist political takeover of the state. As the old saying goes, whipping someone's butt with a pen, because they couldn't do it any other way. The white right know how badly it will go for them should the black electorate unite for its own interest. They've seen what happens in states like Georgia and Pennsylvania when you have a mobilized and organized black electorate. They turn elections even though they're a minority of the vote. And of course, if you're a good old boy, or if you're some racist from Cuba down there in Florida, as far as you're concerned, the last thing you want is black voters flexing on you. Republicans have a majority in the state legislature, but this is an artificial situation caused completely and thoroughly by how they arbitrarily draw the voter district lines. So this is an attempt to try to freeze their artificial political majority in place, an attempt to make it where it doesn't matter how united or mobilized the black vote is, GOP politicians won't be vulnerable in any election. Now, there's 2 points that need to be voiced. First, you don't need to go to Florida to see the destruction of black political representation in action. In California, black people have been steadily gentrified out of existence. San Francisco is a good case study because that city has been almost completely ethnically cleansed of black residents. And Los Angeles is on its way there, with black people only making up 11% of that city's population. And thanks to last week's revelation about the racism from the LA City Council's Hispanic members, it's pretty safe to say there's not going to be any black-brown alliance coming to the rescue. This is what's been going on in California's major cities all the while there has been robust and in some cases even ascending black political representation. Low-down Willie Brown in San Francisco was one of the most influential figures ever to be mayor of that city. When he took office in 1996, the black population of San Francisco was about 9%, give or take. When he left office in 2004, that number had shrank to less than 6%. But that didn't matter to Willie Brown at all. Even the 9% black population didn't matter to him, because when Willie Brown realized that he could win office in a city whose black population was in the single digits, he didn't give a rip what happened to black people in San Francisco. Willie Brown realized that as long as he faithfully served the interests of the white powers that be, the California political machine, that his own political future would be separate and different from that of black San Franciscans. The white powers that be in that city didn't want black people in that town, and Willie Brown didn't do anything to stop it. See, this is why the bootlicks will never change. They're not about to do anything for black people. When you hear Kamala Harris say that she's not going to do something that only is going to benefit black people, no! That's right out of the Willie Brown, Negro Jim Clyburn playbook. Because both of those decrepit fossils try to mask their self-serving bootlicking as being political pragmatism. Oh, they're so principled. But their principle is looking out for only themselves. That's why these backstabbing traitors spout that whole colorblind gibberish so eagerly, because they don't depend on black money, and in many of their cases, they don't even depend on black votes to get political office or keep it. This is why they think and act so much like white supremacists. As they see it, they are completely and thoroughly immune to black opinion. So why bother serving it? See, the average bootlick prefers to have a built-in black constituency, but only because that makes it easier for them to get into the game of being a professional political prostitute. But for the higher-level bootlicks, they've already made their connections. They've already proven their subservient, slavish bona fides to white power, so they can get the golden nod, and they'll be made a candidate in places where the black population is low, and the black political leverage is even lower. What DeSantis is doing is merely the rude version of what Democrats are doing in other places. Understand, these are distinctions without a difference. In Florida, DeSantis and the GOP want to render black voters non-existent as a political threat. And in California, they've already made it where their cities, counties, and the state will ignore black demands even though you have black city councilmen, black mayors, and black state representatives. Sure, you have black representatives, but those black representatives are not working in the interest of the black community. And the second point is, Democrats aren't politically retaliating against the Republicans for all of this political hostility. Democrats are not making it a point to legislate Republicans out of existence in any of the states whose legislatures they control. What Democrat-controlled state legislature is making sure that Republicans pay a price for all of this? None. And it's not because the Democrats have some sense of fair play. They've already shown to black people exactly what their idea of equality is. Democrats are as low down and dirty as the most mouth-frothing Republican racist. The only distinction is Republicans openly run on a platform of attacking black people, while Democrats have declared they're not going to do anything about it. And that's because both parties are in league against us. They're using the technique of the hammer and the anvil. Republicans are the hammer that attacks us every day, and Democrats are like an anvil, unmoving. And while they're not hitting us at least half of the time, Democrats' job is to stand right there and keep us immobile while we get crushed. The job of both political parties is to work together in order to preside over the destruction of our community and the threat that we represent to white supremacy. Dr. King said that you can't say black people have the right to vote when blacks in the South are prohibited from voting and blacks in the North have no one to vote for. What we're seeing today is a more sophisticated version of the same scheme. Black people can vote, but are being subjected to crass and pathetic intimidation tactics on the one hand, and on the other hand finding that the very people who they elected betray them willingly. What black person in Florida actually expects Officer Val Demings to do anything for them? What promises has she made to black people? And the same goes for Charlie Crist. For God's sake, the guy was a Republican just a couple of years ago. Even if Officer Demings did manage to make it to the Senate, she would simply spend her time producing for everyone except for us, just like Barack Obama and Kamala Harris have done. The game being played by both parties is to maintain the racial status quo. Everything else is merely political theater, meant to fool you into thinking that the minor rhetorical jousting that they do before the cameras actually represents some sort of fundamental political difference when it doesn't. It's their actions and their outcomes that matter, not their words. Republicans know full well that black people delivered the Democrats the White House and full control of Congress. That's why all their legislative efforts have been in states where black votes have been pivotal. If Democrats truly want to save the country, then common sense says they should be even more determined to protect black people from any form of voter suppression. They should be focusing all of their efforts across the board toward that end. But they're not. As Rahm Emanuel said, Democrats are seeking a new constituency. Biden Republicans, because those white moderates, read casual racists, will help maintain the status quo. The problem for Democrats isn't winning elections. They know all they have to do is galvanize the black vote and they'll win overwhelmingly. The problem for Democrats is that black people are getting into the habit of making demands for their vote. So Democrats are in a race against time to replace this newly uncooperative black electorate with another constituency, or to try to put together some half-brained voter coalition comprised of racist immigrants and bigoted white right-of-center suburbanites, and hopefully that will enable them to win office without having to do or even promise black people anything. All you gotta do is look at what happened with Doug Jones in Alabama in that special election. Black voters put Doug Jones in the Senate. And he ignored black people all but completely on his election night and didn't do anything for black people when he got to the Senate. So what good did voting for a Democrat do in that case? Ron DeSantis needs to be punished for his blatant and rampant anti-black racism, him and the rest of the Republicans. But the Democrats aren't interested in that. They're not putting that on the table. And the reason why is, no matter what they may say, DeSantis' enemy is also the Democrats' enemy too. And from where I sit, that's no choice at all. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors. William Lassiter, Cowie Harvard, Warrior Class, Tavin Boone, and David Green. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.